She's an icon, she's a legend, and she is the moment.
Yes, Uli.
Mommy.
Mm-hmm. Say hi. Look. Say hi. Say how? Huh?
Mommy.
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 Oh, that's what mommy means. Okay. Do your thing. Hello. Afro Millennial Mama here. Um, how's everybody doing? I was I was filming a members only video, and I was like, and I was like, let me do another one. And I was like, wait, maybe this one can be for the masses. I try to keep some stuff a little more private, but yeah, I was like, this might help people. I don't know. Um, so yeah, I wanted to talk about how it's been raising my kids that are bicultural, I guess, bi-ethnic, maybe. That's, yeah, I think that's a word. Um, you know, and like for us, both our cultures are important for to pass on to our kids. Um, so so yeah, how that's been going now that my oldest is older is coming into our own, especially living here, how that's been going, because I never, I mean, living back home, I there was still things that I wanted to make sure that I instilled in her and that I taught her, because my culture is not the main culture in the country where I'm from. So it still takes extra effort, like any subculture, like if your family is, has a different background than mainstream society. So, I've always been focused on that, and that's something my family has, that I was raised with, you know. So that's always been a thing for me. But I remember being in LA, and there would be the Senegalese community there, and I think because of how I was raised, that like our culture has to be taught by our parents and by our family and by our communities and village, because school doesn't, you can't depend on school, you can't depend on society to acknowledge certain things. um, yeah, so that's been a big part of my upbringing. And for people who move to the States, uh, you would notice certain communities or certain generations, like they may not have as much emphasis, and then you notice other cultures, they do have more of an emphasis on teaching their culture. Maybe, like, for example, certain Asian cultures, maybe Chinese, things like that. And then there's other communities where people kind of just blend in with society, and it may seem like, as the generations, the culture kind of fades. So I remember being in LA, and being very adamant about uh, teaching teaching my kid both cultures, and putting a lot of not pressure, but just encouraging my husband to actually be active in that, because I think yes, because when you come from a place where it's very, it could be more so homogenous, and you don't have to teach stuff. It's just all around you. It may not occur to you that, like, okay, now I have to instill these things. Some people, they just send their kids to synagogue for a summer or for a year or for whatever to learn certain things, and they don't necessarily maybe have the time, or maybe it's not part of them to like teach their kids cultural stuff. I guess they leave it up to experts on some topics or things like that, maybe religion or language and things like that. It's not really like, okay, you need to learn your Wolof. I'm gonna sit down and teach you Wolof and do some Wolof homework. Like, that's kind of how I was raised, or how I would do, like, if it were me, like, hey, we're watching Senegalese movies this weekend, and I'm gonna teach you about, like, it's more, I guess, an organic thing. And so when you're out of your environment, you may not realize that, your kid is not gonna pick up on certain things unless you live in a community where it's like all your people are there. So yeah, so that's something that I noticed, and so moving here, it's still a part of me, but maybe I was concerned, like, certain things they wouldn't pick up on, like certain music and things like that. I feel like I have to make an extra effort to, which is not, it's not too much, because I mean, I'm still me, and so they still get exposed to me, but I want them to get exposed to more than just me, which it helps when family comes to visit. They get some of that. My friends come to visit a lot, and so they get exposed. They see me in my element more, so more or less. And as the African American community continues to grow here, and we have get-togethers and things like that. So Thanksgivings or Friendsgivings and Juneteenth, stuff like that. That helps as we grow as a community. But yeah, I'm very proud of the progress that's been made with my eldest, and even with this one, like, she loves Kendrick Lamar. When she hears it, yeah, she goes crazy, and she's kicking my arm. That's why my camera keeps moving. This is her foot right here, and that's what she likes to do when she nurses. Anyway, so yeah, so, like, my kid, she knows the Isley Brothers, and she knows collard greens, and I don't know why she likes them. I think she likes them just because they're from, she says they're from LA, but they're Black American. And so we watched yesterday. Yes, we watched a documentary on the LA riots, and I got to tell her about it. She was actually interested, and she asked me, can we watch the news from California, or the news from Los Angeles, and see what's going on. She knows that there's people been protesting, and she knows the gist of, like, people who are immigrants, and like how we're immigrants here, how I'm an immigrant here. And so I explained things to her that's going on, and so she's aware, and she's like, they should just let everybody come there, because Senegal, they let everybody come here. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, so like her interest in things and learning about things, and she saw the Watts riots, like, kind of story, and Latasha Harlan's story, and Rodney King getting beat and stuff, and just everything that happened. And me, even for me, watching it as an adult, I mean, I was 10 years old at the time, and I think my parents, when the Watts riots happened, my family was there, and I think my parents were about 10 at the time that happened. And so, or yeah, they were 10, and then, or almost 10, and I was 10 when I was 9 when Rodney King was attacked, brutally beaten, and then the trial, I was 10. And I remember all the names. I remember Simi Valley, like the case, certain things. And so filling in the holes from when I was younger, and just seeing how people reacted, like they showed the news, and I remember when the the Korean merchants or business owners had their guns and were protecting themselves because of police barn. So just like seeing that for me was interesting. But like her learning was cool, and we have a lot of moments like that. Like we do Black History all the time. We do Black History Month here, and she's not bombarded with a lot of homework from school. Generally, when she comes home, she does her extracurricular karate, or she has other stuff to do after school. But then she has time to, we could watch a movie together. And sometimes she'll pick, she wants to learn, so she might want to watch a historical movie like Harry Tubman or something like that. So I like that she's interested, and I'm glad that I've been able to teach her and not just like, okay, you're Senegalese, but yeah, we both put effort. But I think because we're living here, well, I mean, I've seen other people that aren't like their kids may not be half Senegalese or may not be Senegalese descent, and some are exposed or immersed, and some aren't. I think they have a lot of bubbles, like people live in their cultural bubbles or expat bubbles, if you will, and there's different reasons for that. I just think that when we came, we decided before we came, like he wanted her to be a Senegalese kid, in the sense that she would go to a pretty like a kind of a regular kind of school, and with kids, everyday kids, and get that exposure and experience and cultural references and things like that. So I like it because she knows all the songs, all the latest songs. She knows the dances, and she has friends that she can relate to. I think for adults, and just speaking for myself, sometimes people say, "Oh, don't you have friends that you don't have any Senegalese friends or this and that?" And it's like, I mean, when you have things in common with people, you can be friends. It's easier to be friends, I guess. But I grew up differently. My interests are different than a lot of people that may be from here. I think I have more in common with someone who has traveled outside of the country, even if they grew up here, and just people have different interests. Like, I'm a sports type of person. There may not be a lot of women that like to actually play sports as adults. Different things like that. So it's more difficult. But I wanted my kid to have both, and have the best of both of our backgrounds and upbringings and stuff. And I love that I see that happening in real time. Like she plays Nintendo, she goes to slumber parties, she goes to the beach, does her surfing class and stuff. But she's not just that. Like there's several kids that live here that are just in that world, and maybe they don't get the same level of exposure to what a typical local child would be interested in or do. And so I think immersion for kids is crucial, whether you plan to stay long term or not. I know some people are nomadic and they do homeschool, or they move from country to country, not just here. In lots of countries, I see people that live those types of lifestyles, Black Americans and stuff, and they want their kids to be in different countries. But what I have also observed is that a lot of times the children are doing a European, American, or international curriculum, and they're studying at home, so they don't have the exposure to kids in any other, unless they're doing like a extracurricular outside of the house, which a lot of times, even that, depending on what they like to do, if they're gonna do horseback riding or surfing or something that may not be as popular in the country that they're in, um, they're still gonna make friends and acquaintances with kids that are either from abroad or wealthy, or it's not your average local kid that they're hanging with. And so we went back to San Luis to visit for the holidays that just passed, and it was, I really wanted to go because of the kids. I wanted them to see their cousins. I wanted them to play with their cousins, especially now that her Wolof keeps getting better and better. She says she doesn't understand every word that her friends say at school, but the fact that she has friends at school, like she'll have one of her friends is Senegalese and Japanese and speaks English somehow, and then another one of her, then she has a couple of girlfriends that are Senegalese that live in this area, and they talk. They have a WhatsApp chat group on my phone, but they have a chat group and they talk, and so I feel like she can kind of go back and forth between different worlds, and I love that, and that's exactly what I wanted. Um, you know, I think that even for people who move around to different countries, it's I I feel like their kids might be lonely, or like they may not have those childhood friends where even if they end up, let's say they end up living in Brazil, but they grew up in, I don't know, Portugal, or they grew up in Zimbabwe or something. Like, are they gonna stay in touch with their Zimbabwean friends? I think making the world their oyster, to me, im- really would include, to me, my kid being able to, as a teenager or older, be like, oh, I'm going to visit my friend in South America. She does, whatever. I'm gonna go back to Senegal if she's not here, and visit my high school friends, stuff like that. Because I feel like if you have your kid in the same bubble that you and as an adult may feel more comfortable in, that your kid is not going to get the benefit of growing up abroad, or the full benefit, I guess. And some people, maybe they just don't want their kids to be in the States or be in the UK or whatever, and they just want them out of there. Fine, I I still think there's so much more enrichment that can be I don't know what the verb I'm thinking of, but that they can be exposed to, uh, you know, by having as much immersion, immersed experiences, I guess. Um, you know, but sometimes people, because of maybe their income, they're like, oh, I want the best, the most expensive uh, swim class, or the where all the kids speak English, or all the kids do, and I feel like they might be missing out, um, on the local experiences that they can have. That's all. Because I love that my kid, like, and I mean, I guess not everybody has Senegalese, half the family is Senegalese, but still, I would like, if we didn't live here and we went to another country that I might like my favorite country is Panama, actually. But like, if we moved to Costa Rica or something like that, I would still want my kids to have Costa Rican friends and do local Costa Rican kid things, in addition to, you know, so like she doesn't play in the street with the kids, like, that are a little away because it's a little far. But she does go to the store by herself. Like, she'll go to the store, she'll say hi to the older ladies. They all, she'll go speak to everyone and stuff. And there's some little kids across the street, but they're a little younger. But she could play with them. So I feel like that experience makes your kid able to adapt anywhere. But if you keep them in this in this bubble of like they're going to the international school, all their friends are from there, all the sports that they like to play and things like that, then it's like they kind of stay in this isolation. I don't know, I guess in the States they have that too, where people just stay in their own community and in their own world. But yeah, I just think that the beauty of living abroad is being able to fully immerse. And for adults, it's a little harder, especially if you're, like you're not in your 20s, you're like older than that. You really are who you are. Your interests are what they are. You can have new interests, but everything has to be organic. Like you can't just force, like, oh, I'm going to become something else. I mean, that's not really, I don't think that's even smart to try to do, like to be someone you're not. But yeah, I love it. Like this one, she speaks both languages to me, and well, both Wolof and English, and she dances to both hip hop and bala, and they love it all, and so I like that for them. I love that for them actually. But yeah, I don't. If people sometimes ask me, about schools and different things like that, and so it just depends on what you're looking for. But I definitely do tell people, like, keep in mind what you want for your kid and the future you want for them, because it's not like just living here they're going to pick up on certain things. Like there's people who live here that don't speak the local language, and you could be here for 10 plus years and not speak the language and just figure your way around, and you know but yeah, I want our kids, not just my kids, but like all of our kids, wherever we are in the world as Black Americans. Like I want people to really be able to not just, oh, I'm a tell to have somebody come tutor my kid and teach them Spanish. No, let them play with other kids. Even if you as a parent can't talk to the other parents, like figure out a way to let your kid, be in that local environment and get the local experience, and you learn about it as much as you can as you go along. Because yeah, I think it helps them become more diverse and well-rounded as human beings. So anyway, that's just my take. um, she's just going to town. I thought she wanted to be in the video, but I guess she'd rather do what she's doing. So I'm gonna let y'all go. See y'all on the next video. Bye. Black people, we the coolest, we the baddest, we the flyest, we the realest. I love y'all. Peace.